everybody, and welcome to the Good Stories podcast. My name's Jody, sitting here with Steven, and excited to be talking through another good story today. And I have to tell you, brother, I did some episode planning this week because we've gotten some recommendations, and two things. I found books that are new to me, or at least not brand new, but new to me, and reminded of old books that I read a long time ago that are super good. So I was curious, are you reading anything new lately? New to you?
I have been reading quite a lot recently. I mean, obviously for the podcast, I definitely read a bunch. But outside of that, when we did Smith of Wootton Major, you had a version of the story that had all sorts of extra things in it that I had never seen. And you loaned me that after we did the recording. And so I had a wonderful time reading through all of that. I have also been going back through, I'm always in the middle of C.S. Lewis's letters. I'm about quarter of the way through his third volume, and they're delightful and enjoying that very much. I've missed reading some of the ones we've already done shows on, though. So I made it a point. I'm rereading The Discarded Image right now because I love it. And I've been re-listening to The Silmarillion and have been enjoying that immensely as well.
So you're going backwards. Did you know that Robin Hood is a book?
No.
There is a book of Robin Hood out there written about the same time as Peter Pan, like 1900-ish.
Do you know who wrote it?
I want to say Pyle, P-Y-L-E.
Okay, that would make sense. I think I've heard of that version.
Anyway, I just didn't know it existed. Same with an autobiography of Davy Crockett.
Oh.
And I am enjoying a lot, and I think we should do that one.
That one I have not heard of. That would be interesting.
I didn't realize he wrote it. I thought it was fiction. I'm pretty sure it was him. And in midway, he'll be like, I know there's these things with the deposits. It's while he's a congressman. But he's going back through his life. It's really good. I think we should do that one. But we did a couple shorts a while back, the What Are You Reading Right Now? Mm-hmm. And I just figured I'd do it here instead.
I love it. I think it's a great move.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot. It's been really good. And I appreciate people who send us episode recommendations because Neverending Story came up. I'd forgotten about it. It wasn't even on our planning list.
It's on the list now.
It is. Anyway, that's been really fun this week. But let's do our top 5 new download locations. So these are places new this week that downloaded the most. Because that's about as much visibility as I have to who listens. But thank you out there to Queens, New York, Silva, North Carolina, West Des Moines, Iowa, Golden, Colorado, and Winnipeg, Canada. Whoever's listening, thank you. We're glad you're with us. So for today's story, we are going back to a time and a story from G.K. Chesterton. This is our third Chester. Yes, we did.
Yep, Ball and the Cross.
Ball and the Cross early on, and we did Man Alive somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. Today's story is called The Napoleon of Notting Hill. And man, I learned a lot. This one was totally new to me. First read from Stephen. And Chesterton just has a way of taking these ideas and ideals and just shoving them into a bizarro, fun story. This one was great. It took me a little bit to get into it, and then it was a page turner. I had to know how it ended. I stayed up late just to find out. So let's get into it. Time for a story.
London in the future is very similar to London now, but it has grown more dull and drab. The king is now selected at random from an alphabetical list, and so far this seems to have worked pretty well. Pretty well, that is, until Mr. Quin Oberon is appointed king. To him, everything is a joke, and he uses his authority to humorously bring the arrogance and pride of medieval nation-states to the individual boroughs of London. He thinks this is great fun until one man takes him seriously. This man is the Lord High Provost of Notting Hill, and he uses his sense of local patriotism to oppose a building project through Pump Street. So begins the defense of Notting Hill, which also turns into a battle for the hearts and minds of London.
Very good. It is a surprising story, kind of start to finish.
And I'm so grateful that you were willing to read this one. I think I told you when we did the Ball and the Cross that one of the reasons I was so excited about it was I had never met anyone who had read it before. That's true for this story as well. I know people have read it, but I've never talked to anybody who's read it. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what you thought of it and to go through with this today.
So, spoiler alert, just in case you want to read the ending for yourself, because I know there's a lot of people out there that's true. We're going to go through it start to finish, and I did not know how it would end. I was trying to predict, actually, and I got it wrong. But it is exciting. We're going to go all the way through it. And an age recommendation, anyone could read this. Any age, I think. There are a lot of big words and big concepts that I think a younger kid wouldn't understand, but it's in no way inappropriate for them. There are battles described in the streets of London, and man, it's just a very clever book. So I don't know, what age would you say?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think there's any age that it would be inappropriate for, but I think you'd be pretty bored for most of it up until high school, where you could start trying to sort of understand the deeper points he's trying to get across. Chesterton, the way he writes, though, is just sparkling. So even if you don't understand what he's doing with the story, which I think would definitely be true with the younger reader, there will still be lines that jump out at you. Some of them are beautiful and some make you go, huh, what just happened?
That sounds like Chesterton.
Yeah, totally.
I feel that. So I think I said this was his first published novel, and I think that's true. He had done poetry and things before this, but it came out in 1904, and I think he also had books that he'd written before but hadn't been published yet. So this was the first one published, and I love this story about him I found that said he was going to write his first novel, and he had 10 shillings in his pocket. I don't know how much that is, maybe $10. Like equivalent at the time. I'm not sure.
At that time, I don't know.
But it was Chesterton. He was hungry. So he went and got lunch. And of course, a bottle of wine. He used up every cent he had. And they went to talk to the publisher. Fortified is the quote I saw, because he'd had wine with lunch. And he basically said, I need 20 pounds to write this book. And he got it. This unpublished, well, at least in the novels, unpublished guy, he got this 20 pounds. And then the note is that he got the money and then he gave it to his wife.
Yeah. He was a persuasive man. That is the impression I get, larger than life. We talk a bit about G.K. Chesterton before the first one of his books we did when we talked about The Ball and the Cross. So I won't go into depth here, but just what a character. Fascinating man. He would sure be interesting to spend some time talking to, or maybe better worded, to spend some time listening to him talk, because I'm not sure how much I'd be able to get in.
I could not keep up in a conversation. No way. But he would be delightful. One more trivia on this. So this came out in 1904, and it projects forward into London's future, about 80 years. So it would be 1984. There's this parallel where he actually published an essay by Eric Blair, whose pen name is George Orwell, who wrote 1984. So, I mean, it is a stretch to be like those things are intimately connected, but he helped George Orwell get started in the business. I think it was a publication in a magazine. But.
Oh, I didn't know that. I knew about the connection to 1984, and there's some thought that might be actually why George Orwell chose that year. But I had no idea that they actually knew each other or that he had helped him. That's great.
Yeah, at least he allowed an essay to be published in his magazine. So I don't know how much relationship there was there, but it's really fun trivia.
That's great. And how fun is the setup of this? That it's written in 1904, but it's a futuristic book. So in some ways, this is, sci-fi fantasy. But this is exciting to me because it's kind of like watching Back to the Future now, where we now live at the age past where it occurred. And so we can think of it as a futuristic book, but it's actually in our past. And we'll see as we read through this where G.K. Chesterton was actually kind of prophetic in a few ways.
So one thing before we begin, my book has a poem at the beginning and a dedication to Hilaire Belloc, who is also an author. And honestly, I don't know a lot about him other than they were great friends. And Hilaire Belloc, I know, wrote some more serious things, I think some satire, but he also wrote some poetry. One included some cautionary tales and poems to children. Do you know this?
I have not read that work. No.
Oh my gosh. Here's the name of the poem. It's a cautionary tale for children. It's called Jim, Who Ran Away from His Nurse and Was Eaten by a Lion.
So don't do that.
I think it's hilarious. So just some clips to give you an idea, because Chesterton was a funny guy too. Hilaire Belloc had a sense of humor, but there was a boy whose name was Jim. His friends were very good to him. And then it talks about the nurse that he's even taken to the zoo, but there was the dreadful fate befell him, which I now relate. He hadn't gone a yard when bang, with open jaws, a lion sprang and hungrily began to eat the boy, beginning at his feet. Now just imagine how it feels when first your toes and then your heels, and then by gradual degrees, your shins and ankles, calves and knees are slowly eaten bit by bit. And when his mother finds out, she dries her eyes and says, well, it gives me no surprise. He would not do as he was told. So the
Harsh.
Really?
Harsh.
So don't leave your nurse, everybody.
Yeah, that's what I'm learning.
You've been warned. I'm sorry. This poem just cracked me up. I had to tell you.
Oh, that's great. Well, and they were such good friends. Again, I've only read a little of Belloc. Because I'm such a fan of Chesterton, I actually looked him up, and I've read through his, I think it's called Against Heresies, and a few other things he's read, or a few other things that he wrote. And I haven't really gotten into him in a big way, but reading Chesterton as I have, he loved the man. They were so tight and such good friends. And I don't remember who the Englishman was, but some English wit labeled this new creature, the Chester Belloc, where basically they were the same person united as one. And Chesterton loved that. He loved being associated with Belloc in that way. And they were very close.
I think it was George Bernard Shaw.
That would make sense.
Yeah, because he was always with Chesterton, but they were kind of frenemies, the point counterpoint. But I think it came from him. I don't promise, but I think so.
Well, should we read the first line of this story? Now, you would be excused, I think, when you open this book and go to read it. You would expect that at least somewhere in the first chapter, perhaps, a character would appear. One does not. So let me read how this one starts. Book 1, The Napoleon of Notting Hill, Chapter 1, Introductory Remarks on the Art of Prophecy. The human race, to which so many of my readers belong, has been playing at children's games from the beginning, and will probably do it till the end, which is a nuisance for the few people who grow up. So that just starts the flavor. But he goes on to explain that one of the games that they still love playing has a couple of different names. Either Cheat the Prophet or Keep Tomorrow Dark. People love to predict what's going to happen in the future. And this first chapter, he goes into this at some length, how all these different people have tried to predict the future, and humans just kind of keep doing what they want to do anyway, and they're really never right.
I like this line. It says, in the beginning of the 20th century, you could not see the ground for clever men. They were so common that a stupid man was quite exceptional. And when they found him, they followed him in crowds down the street and treasured him up and gave him some high post in the state. Everything he writes is this strange mix of funny and serious.
Yes.
So here, as you say, this whole first chapter it's why it took me a while to get into it. He names a lot of specific names and their beliefs and their predictions for the future and how they don't pan out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he talks about how most of these guys will find something that is, quote, going strong, and then take that to its logical conclusion. What if that became an extreme? So he talks about, as you said, lots and lots of different people, from H.G. Wells to a Dr. Quilp to somebody named James Pickey. Some of these people I've heard of, and some of them I have no idea. And I'll confess, I did not look them all up. But his main point is that kind of no matter who they are, they're usually wrong. But he says that it actually got really tricky because there were so many people prophesying about the future that just by force of odds, you would assume some of them got it right. But the human race is really good at this game, and they like cheating the prophets.
He says at the end, when the curtain goes up on this story, 80 years after the present date, so 1984, London is almost exactly like what it is now.
So moving into the story itself, Very few words are needed to explain why London 100 years hence will be very like it is now, or rather, since I must slip into a prophetic past, why London, when my story opens, was very like it was in those enviable days when I was still alive. But the point he goes on to make after those enviable days when he was still alive is essentially that there are no more revolutionaries. The spirit of revolution has died, and Chesterton believes strongly in the spirit of revolution. This is a world that is imperial to its core. There are large nations, and these nations, these empires, control everything, but they've become boring. They've become drab, and they've become colorless. And this is the world he begins to describe in the future.
It's interesting, the idea of revolution, because if you think of a revolution, it's usually, bloody. A bloody revolution, some kind of war and upset. And here the argument is that's kind of good.
Mhm.
People care. And here, nobody cares. They have all these things, and we follow these fine gentlemen walking down the street, and they have coattails, and they're going to lunch to dine, and they just have everything seemingly, but they're bored.
There is one man, though, and the way he describes this is wonderful because this one man walking behind them doesn't see two men. He sees two dragons. There are two dragons in front of him. He can see the shiny yellow eyes. He can see the two halves of the snout kind of splitting down that he knows the tongue is going to come out of. And he's terrified at the sight of these dragons walking in front of him. And then he realizes, oh, those are frock coats with tails. The eyes are just the brass buttons that he sees on the back. But for that one moment, the world was different. There was something glorious and other that he saw, these mythical beasts that then turned into men. And in a classical Chesterton move, this is also glorious because it was glorious to see these dragons out of nowhere. But then he realizes, oh, these are men, and ordinary men are glorious too. And we see from this first moment that there's something a little bit different around this character who's watching them.
I like this line. It says, if you look at a thing 999 times, you are perfectly safe. If you look at it the 1,000th time, you are in frightful danger of seeing it for the first time. Again, so Chesterton, where, think about it, if I was to mention bright pink cars, they're out there. We all know a bright pink car is out there. But if I mention it, tomorrow you'll see 20 of them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't unsee it. And here, where he's walking behind these two gentlemen in tails, he can't unsee the dragons. Not completely. They're there now. It went from entirely dull to they have dragons on their coats.
As you said, though, the walk of these men is fairly mundane, and we learned that these are important government officials. They are out for lunch. One of them is asking about a barber shop, but they're not doing anything really important. But as they walk along, after the dragons, of course, we have this first great twist because something comes in that they are not expecting. And this is where we have the arrival of the man dressed in green. It says he was a tall, stately man clad in a military uniform of brilliant green, splashed with great silver facings. From the shoulder swung a short green-furred cloak, somewhat like that of a hussar, the lining of which gleamed every now and then with a kind of tawny crimson. His breast glittered with medals. Round his neck was the red ribbon and the star of some foreign order, and a long straight sword with a blazing hilt trailed and clattered along the pavement. Now again, this is the future, where the world is largely at peace and the world is largely dull. People are not used to seeing military uniform. And so this green military uniform is striking with everybody else dressed in gray and black and drab colors. But even more striking and vivid are the medals on his chest, the sword he's carrying. There is this streak of romanticism and sort of brightness in this random guy walking around London that they do not know. But then this random guy walking around London that they do not know does something really unusual.
Well, he certainly draws attention. My goodness. It says the whole time it looks like he's looking for something, though. And so these three government officials, one who sees dragons and tailcoats, they're looking at this guy who's looking for something. And finally he finds it. And he walks up to a poster, a mustard poster. Coleman's mustard.
Coleman's mustard.
This is what he needs. And he tears a shred of yellow off this mustard poster and pins it to his uniform.
Well, he doesn't have a pin.
Oh,
so
right.
he has to bring in the good nature of those around him. And he asks, does anybody have a pin? Fortunately, somebody does. So he's able to pin this strip of poster to his chest. And he seems satisfied and delighted, but not complete. There's still something else he needs. He's looking now for red.
I like that the guy who sees dragons is like, hey, where's your cockatoo?
Your red cockatoo.
And the other guy's like, what? I don't have a cockatoo. He's like, that's strange. Where's it been this whole time?
Yeah, what? He says something like, you've never seen me with a red cockatoo. Yeah, I've wondered where you keep it.
So he's an important character we should pay attention to. But yeah, this guy who just tore yellow off, he's looking for red. And he's like, I know where to find it. He takes a penknife and cuts himself, puts his handkerchief on it. Now he has red.
And he takes one of the pins that have been so generously offered to him, and he attaches it next to the yellow ribbon on his chest. So he has red and yellow, and nobody has any clue what is going on right here. This is an odd behavior.
I, too, was bewildered. And the man says, I have to thank you all, gentlemen, and resumes his walk with an overwhelming stateliness.
They're not going to let him get away, though.
They invite him to lunch.
Particularly the little man who is the funny guy, the one who mentioned the cockatoo. And let's tell you his name because he is going to be important. This is Mr. Oberon Quinn. He spells Oberon different than I've seen that name spelled before. I know Oberon from Shakespeare and from fairy tales as the king of the fairies, spelled with an O. Oberon Quinn is spelled Auberon. And Mr. Quinn invites this man who we learn speaks primarily Spanish and is calling them señor in the very lofty and dignified way. He agrees to join them for lunch.
And here one of the men asks, perhaps it would not be rude of me to ask why you did that. It was a really strange thing. And I like that they have to eat first, but then they can ask the question. They're still proprietaries to be observed.
But this man is happy to respond. He tells them his name. He says, I am Juan del Fuego, president of Nicaragua. And then he says, the yellow paper and the red rag, said Fuego with indescribable grandeur, are the colors of Nicaragua. This is very surprising because one of the men, and I'll say his name now, Barker is one of the important government officials that has been walking along here. He says, but Nicaragua is no longer, and then he breaks off. Nicaragua has been conquered. This little nation is no longer a nation. It has been destroyed and taken off the map. And so now we have this man claiming to be the former president of Nicaragua, but his country is gone. It no longer exists. And in this red and in this yellow, though, he sees the colors of his country and he longs for them to the point that he's willing to slice open his hand to get the color to put on his chest. Again, weird things seem to be happening. And certainly these Englishmen who are talking to him think he's bizarre.
Yes, but he goes on kind of at length here about how Nicaragua is not dead. His country, his nation, I don't know if it was a country at the time, but this nation state has been conquered. And he says, conquered by modernity, but Nicaragua is not dead. Nicaragua is an idea. And he has this love and this ideal around his home where he's from. Even though it's gone, he still loves it and is passionate about it and represents it in how he even just has lunch with them.
Mm-hmm. And then there's this wonderful interchange, this back and forth between these fairly important government officials. They are high-ranking members of what is an imperial country. I mean, it dominates large portions of the world in its boring way. And Barker speaks to that. He says that it's better to have these large countries. We can bring you in, civilize you, make you better. We can take the best from all these small countries and make them a part of ourselves. And he goes on at length talking about speaking in the public interest and really keeps going. But he's interrupted by the president. Politely, he says, "The señor will forgive me," said the president. "May I ask the señor how, under ordinary circumstances, he catches a wild horse.
Barker is appalled. I would never catch a wild horse.
And then the president explains, so what you're saying is not you want to bring the best from all these other nations into your empire, that you want to take what's great. What you're wanting to do is to take away the identity of these smaller countries and nations and blend them into your empire. Because we've got great ways of catching horses. We've got wonderful techniques that we could absolutely bring to you. You don't even know how to do it, nor do you even want to do it. And I think he makes a spectacular point here. And I think this is one of the main themes that Chesterton, throughout his life, really endorsed. But he really brings it a picture here. Chesterton was never a fan of empire. He never believed in imperialism. And often he was very unpopular for that stance. His whole argument is that things of interest, things of delight, things of glory and joy require something small. You can't love a nation that spans the globe, but you can love the streets where you were born. You can love a small nation that you're a part of. And if more people did that, everything would be better. And so this is one of the kind of clever ways I think he tries to get his argument here at the beginning.
I mean, the examples are very good, but Barker kind of responds in full that, like, we've gotten rid of superstitions and all the things we didn't need. We've cut away unimportant things, even now to the point that our king is elected randomly.
Alphabetically.
From a list.
And he thinks this is great. And again, he goes at length on this. And so where we said that younger people may not follow this as much, there's some pretty long speeches here. And there's quite a bit of politics and quite a bit of philosophy. But yeah, his whole argument is that we've kind of always done that. So if you have a king who has a son, you don't know whether he's going to be good or bad. But you can usually trust that if you take a citizen at random, he's going to be neither too great or too crazy. He's going to just sort of do his job, and that'll be okay. He says, isn't that how we use juries? If we try somebody for murder, don't we just grab random people off the street, and don't we normally expect they're going to do all right with it? Well, we do the same thing with kingship, and he thinks this is a fantastic idea.
It's interesting, the idea of somebody random, because the president of Nicaragua asks, the man may be a tyrant or a cynic or a criminal, and you risk it? And Barker says, placidly, we risk it. But taking somebody at random, there's not even a guarantee that they care about where they grew up, where they're from. It doesn't even say that they're local. They're just on the list.
Yeah. The president does not think much of this. He's very polite and very generous as he listens to Barker, but eventually it says the old president smiled. I don't know, he said, that I have any particular objection in detail to your excellent scheme of government. My only objection is quite a personal one. It is that if I were asked whether I would belong to it, I should ask, first of all, if I was not permitted as an alternative to be a toad in a ditch. That is all. You cannot argue with the choice of the soul.
And Barker gets up on a high horse here and says something about the interests of the public. And Oberon Quinn stands up and has to leave. Not because he's upset, because he's laughing. They're worried he's upset. He's like, no. He just goes and chortles over this line. Speaking of the interests of the public, Mr. Quinn, the one who sees dragons and tailgoats, has a sense of humor.
But he kind of only has a sense of humor. And there is a really perceptive passage here where the old president looked after him with queerly vigilant eyes. He is a man, I think, he said, who cares for nothing but a joke. He is a dangerous man. Lambert, one of the other officials, laughed in the act of lifting some macaroni to his mouth. Dangerous, he said. You don't know little Quinn, sir. Every man is dangerous, said the old man without moving, who cares only for one thing. I was once dangerous myself. And then the first great twist of this book, we've come to love the Nicaraguan president with his love of gold and red. And with a pleasant smile, he finished his coffee and rose, bowing profoundly, passed out into the fog, which had again grown dense and somber. 3 days afterwards, they heard that he had died quietly in lodgings in Soho.
This confused me greatly, brother. He died.
But he's wonderful. In these few pages, he also lives. He is a live character and in stark contrast to the government officials. There's the two that are kind of pompous and take themselves too seriously and think too highly of their government. And then the third one is just a jokester. He's just a pure joke. And opposed to all of them is this man who cares about something, who loves something, who has lived a life, and who can see clearly in a way that I don't think the others can. He can identify things in them. And here at the end of his life, he's able to share some truth with these people. They don't hear it, but we as readers do, and we get to learn from that.
Well, and he indicates that he was once dangerous himself for only caring about one thing. Clearly, he's learned and cares about more than just one thing. And we're going to see what happens when people who care only about one thing go to the extreme. And here in this next one is called The Hill of Humor.
Before we move to the Hill of Humor, I looked everywhere I could think of. How on earth are yellow and red the colors of Nicaragua? When you look at their flag, it's blue and white. I went back
That's funny.
as far as I could to try and figure out, was there a flag at some point that was these colors? And I could not find one. The closest I came up with was the flag of the Prince of Guatemala. So that's not Nicaragua, but apparently the territory at the time included Nicaragua, and it had red and yellow in it. I was reading some things that there's a rainbow in the center of the flag, and that has some red and yellow in it, but that seems pretty weak to me. So I have no idea where Chesterton got this red and yellow as the colors of Nicaragua. If anybody knows, please let me know, because this is driving me nuts. I don't know where he got those from. I will move on now.
Maybe he picked it because it's totally not.
And he could do the poster of mustard, which is fantastic.
It is hilarious and iconic.
And the blood. So maybe this is something he just made up. But anyways, I spent far too long trying to figure this out. And I am no nearer than when I began.
I'm so glad I didn't look. I feel like that fits with the next section, though, because Oberon Quinn is telling these stories that make no sense and then sums them up that story is the test of humor. Like, if you don't think that's funny, you're wrong. You have no sense of humor. They're nonsense.
They really are. And he is nonsense. He ends up doing things like standing on his head because they dare him to. I mean, everything he sees around him is a joke. But while he is engaged in these ridiculous antics, while he is telling these stories, some more government officials approach this little group of three men.
They tell Oberon Quinn he is now the King of England. His name came up on the list.
Barker at first is really excited because he thinks it might be him because they're coming to him, but no, it is Oberon Quinn. And I love this line. So these are the officers that are trying to tell Oberon Quinn. The officer looked at the capering Mr. Quinn with a quiet eye. "We have not come, gentlemen," he said, "about what I think you are alluding to," because his friends think that they come to arrest Quinn for acting like a lunatic. "We have come from headquarters to announce the selection of His Majesty the King. It is the rule inherited from the old regime that the news should be brought to the new sovereign immediately, wherever he is. So we have followed you across Kensington Gardens." And then they all wonder, is it me? Is it me? Is it me? And then at the end it says, "No, sir," said the officer with a slight cough and a glance towards Oberon, who is at that moment putting his head between his legs and making a noise like a cow. "The gentleman who we have to congratulate seems at the moment, occupied." So Oberon Quinn is now the King of England.
And the men tell him, like, don't you get it? This isn't a joke, because Quinn is still up in the tree, still standing on his head, still speaking nonsense. "I will accept the post 3 times and refuse it afterwards. Oh, I will toil for you, my faithful people. You shall have a banquet of humor."
At least he's honest. He tells exactly what he's planning to do. And the other guys are just so fed up and so worried about what's going to happen. We didn't talk at the beginning how this book is organized, and I think this is interesting. Because normally when I read Chesterton, I kind of get the sense that it just moves along however his mind was going at the time, and then somehow he kind of brings it all in together. This entire book, though, actually, I think has a plan to it. It consists of 5 books, each with 3 chapters. And each book has kind of an overall theme and has sort of a clear start and stop. And each chapter also has a fairly clear start and stop. So I think he actually did more organization in this one than in many of the other ones I've read. This brings us to the end of book 1. And now we begin book 2, the Charter of the Cities.
I think that the fact that book 1 is about prophecy and everybody getting it wrong, there is no possible way anyone would have ever anticipated this man becoming king.
No, but the president called Barker out and said, anyone? Anyone? And what was his placidly he would accept?
Anyone.
He is not placid about Oberon.
No, he's furious. I don't know how much silliness to say about Oberon Quinn. He takes his coat off and has him give it back to him in reverse.
I just think this part is hilarious, so I would like to talk about this. Barker and Lambert are the 2 other people he was with. Those are the government officials, and they are trying to talk some sense into the new king. And Barker comes in, and Oberon actually takes Barker's hat, placed it on his own chair, and sat on it. And he said, this is an example of the way he's speaking. A quaint old custom, he explained, smiling above the ruins. When the king receives the representatives of the house of Barker, the hat of the latter is immediately destroyed in this manner. It represents the absolute finality of the act of homage expressed in the removal of it. It declares that never until that hat shall once more appear upon your head, a contingency which I firmly believe to be remote, shall the house of Barker rebel against the crown of England. I mean, that's delightful. I mean, that's hilarious, and it drives Barker insane.
There's a lot of that, and they basically ask him not to play the fool. Not to play the fool. Do that in private if you think it's funny. And he says, it is funnier to do it in public. Everyone is grave in public and funny in private. My sense of humor suggests the reversal of this. You should be funny in public and grave in private, solemn in private. And he does. I mean, he is taking this to the extreme.
Oh, yeah.
He finds it funny.
And at this point, he says, I will go, he said, and mingle with the people. And so the new king goes for a walk. As he's walking, he comes to a street in the neighborhood of Notting Hill. Now, I have never been to London. You have been to London. So do you recognize some of the things they describe in this book in terms of streets and locations and boroughs?
I was there like 3 days, so not an expert by any means. Kensington Gardens and that area, for sure. Kensington High Street. It's nice, you know, you walk through, there's shops and there's places you can sit and have coffee and have lunch like they were having lunch. These are nice. Notting Hill, I think, is kind of up and away.
Okay.
Away from the center.
It is truly a hill, though, near as I can tell.
I think so.
Or at least was at this time, or is in this book.
You know what? We have listeners in England. Please tell us.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
That would be wonderful. But I don't get the sense, at least the way he describes it, that this is, uptown. These aren't the wealthy in this area. Does that seem your impression?
I don't think it's the affluent part of town, no.
But there is a young man, a little boy with a wooden sword. So the king is walking along the street, and it says, he passed swiftly up a street in the neighborhood of Notting Hill, when suddenly he felt a hard object driven into his waistcoat. He paused, put up his single eyeglass, and beheld a boy with a wooden sword and a paper-cocked hat, wearing that expression of awed satisfaction with which a child contemplates his work when he has hit someone very hard. The king gazed thoughtfully for some time at his assailant and slowly took a notebook from his breast pocket. I love this because the king loves children, and what he has are notes for his dying speech. So this kid is playing. There's a toy sword, and he has struck the king, and so the king is going to give his dying speech, and he's got this whole list of them that he wants to utter, but he's not sure who he's talking to. And the boy says, I'm the king of the castle. The king was a kind-hearted man and very fond of children, like all people who are fond of the ridiculous. Infant, he said, I am glad you are so stalwart a defender of your old inviolate Notting Hill. Look up nightly to that peak, my child, where it lifts itself among the stars so ancient, so lonely, so unutterably Notting. So long as you are ready to die for the sacred mountain, even if it were ringed with the armies of Bayswater. And this is where the king has an idea that he is going to flesh out at length, much to the annoyance of Barker, Lambert, and everybody else. But before he goes, he tosses the kid a coin. And it's hilarious.
Well, he tells the boy, for the war chest of Notting Hill. And then he runs violently home. Very quick for the King of England. But he demands to know if he's part of any old clubs or any members of old clubs. He has a big job to do. He's going to change the system. It says perhaps the noblest of all his conceptions. I mean, he goes from this guy walking down the street eating lunch to the king referring to all of his ideas and grandeur and all this. Permit me to read a paper at your next meeting on the wars of the London boroughs. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I love that he chooses an organization that will work. As the king, he's an honorable member of countless organizations, so his aide is rattling them off. But when he gets to the name of the Society for the Revival of London Antiquities, that'll do. That'll work. That's the what he's going to use. And what he has decided to do, the line in here, I think, words it best. A revival of the arrogance of the old medieval cities applied to our glorious suburbs. And so the king accepts a speaking engagement and he shows up, and boy, his speech is something.
I mean, this is a throwback to medievalism. So we've spoken about medieval times on this podcast many times because Tolkien and Lewis were medievalists at heart. You mentioned the discarded image. But this is medievalism in terms of the pageantry, the colors, the insignias, the emblems, where there's these provosts, these leaders of each separate borough of London.
And I don't think I can word this any better than the king himself. So I'm going to read a portion of his speech to the Society for the Revival of London Antiquities. Tomorrow morning at 25 minutes past 10, if heaven spares my life, I purpose to issue a proclamation. It has been the work of my life and is about half finished. With the assistance of a whiskey and soda, I shall conclude the other half tonight, and my people will receive it tomorrow. All these boroughs where you were born and hope to lay your bones shall be reinstated in their ancient magnificence. Hammersmith, Kensington, Bayswater, Chelsea, Battersea, Clapham, Balham, and 100 others. Each shall immediately build a city wall with gates to be closed at sunset. Each shall have a city guard armed to the teeth. Each shall have a banner, a coat of arms, and, if convenient, a gathering cry. I will not enter into the details now. My heart is too full. They will be found in the proclamation itself. You will all, however, be subject to enrollment in the local city guards, to be summoned together by a thing called the tocsin, the meaning of which I am studying in my researches into history. Personally, I believe a tocsin to be some kind of highly paid official. If, therefore, any of you happen to have such a thing as a halberd in the house, I should advise you to practice with it in the garden. Here the king buried his face in his handkerchief and hurriedly left the platform, overcome by emotions. The members of the Society for the Recovery of London Antiquities rose in an indescribable state of vagueness. Some were purple with indignation. An intellectual few were purple with laughter. The great majority found their minds a blank. There remains a tradition that one pale face with burning blue eyes remained fixed upon the lecturer, and after the lecture, a red-haired boy ran out of the room. City gates. If you have a halberd, practice with it in the garden. Details to follow. It is hilarious.
What is a halberd, brother?
A halberd is a pike weapon with a blade on the end of it. If you have ever seen the Swiss guard who guard the Pope, they carry halberds.
This would not be something, presumably, everyone has in their closet in 1984.
I would not expect so.
But this guy is serious and evidently has the authority as the king to pull it off. It says the next morning he runs out of bed. I mean, he came down 3 steps at a time like a schoolboy. He is so excited about this idea. It's the work of his life.
That's right.
That he started yesterday.
That's right. A whiskey and soda will get him through.
I think here's where he demands his paint box.
Yes. Well, he commissions a page to purchase paints, and he gives him directions to a little shop where he can get paints for however many pence it's going to be. It's great.
And he comes up with, what do you call it? Shields, insignia, emblems, some word along this line.
Coats of arms.
Heraldry.
Heraldry. But not just that. He spends the day fixed on this. He's drawing the robes that they need to wear. He's drawing the guards' uniforms, and each borough has unique insignia, symbols, mottos, and he's just doing this off the top of his head based off of kind of what he thinks about the name or his own experiences there in the past. And he is so excited about it, and he does it for all these suburbs.
He says, I must work in the dark and let my instincts guide me. Because he's just going off the names and he takes them to extremes. So, for example, Lavender Hill. Could any of your glebes and combs and all the rest of it produce so fragrant an idea? So their heraldry, their colors, all of these things, their robes, they reflect the name. He's basically forcing a history and a territorialism on each of these areas based on their name and location.
Barker shows up, tries to talk him out of it. It does not work. The king is adamant that this will happen, and he releases the great proclamation of the Charter of the Free Cities. I love the next paragraph. The reception which the Charter of the Cities met at the hands of the public may mildly be described as mixed.
In one sense, it was popular enough. In many happy homes, that remarkable legal document was read aloud on winter evenings amid uproarious appreciation. But before the proclamation goes out, and Barker is trying to talk the king out of it, the king understands that his good man Barker is upset. And so he declares him provost, Lord High Provost of South Kensington. And now, my dear James, you are all right. Good day. And Barker's trying to interrupt, like, that's not it. He's like, the audience is at an end, Provost. He thought he was mad because he wanted position, so he gave him one.
That's right. There you go. And earlier it does describe how Barker was an ambitious man. Again, he was kind of hoping he was going to be king when the officials came to appoint Auber and Quinn. But now he is the Lord High Provost of South Kensington, so he has title. The other Lord High Provosts are not terribly excited about this, and many complaints reach the ears of the king. I don't remember all the details, so West Kensington, I think, talks about how it was really hard to get his ceremonial guard in a cab.
With all the halberdiers.
Yeah. Others hated that when they went to the mailbox, they had to have an honor guard. One of them's wife objects to having so many men in the kitchen. But the king is undaunted. He loves all of this. And the more people complain, the better he likes it.
He insists that verbal complaints should be presented to him with the fullest pomp of trumpets, plumes, and halberds. Only a few resolute spirits were prepared to run the gauntlet of the little boys in the streets.
Nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to wear the costumes and do the halberds and the whole things, but it's required for audience with the king. And so this happens. This occurs, and 10 years pass. But the joy of the joke is no less for the king. He still thinks this is just fantastic, and he is loving every moment of it.
Things happen quickly in Chesterton stories. So we were enjoying the company of the president of Nicaragua, and then he died.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then this proclamation goes out, people are complaining, and then 10 years go by. It's been a decade. But here is where a sudden obstacle appeared that had neither been reckoned with nor dreamed of. A small and strange obstacle which, like a speck of grit in a great machine, jarred the whole vast scheme and brought it to a standstill. It's funny, this was going okay.
Yeah, it seems to work. We're at an age where, remember, revolution is dead. I mean, even ridiculous things, it's a bland and dull and boring age. The king, I think, as a character, yes, humor is his defining thing, but I think there's also a sense that this just isn't right, that there's something wrong with the world. And humor is his protection against that sense. But there is something wrong with the world. And even if people hate this, they're going to do it because he's the king and they're not going to revolt against it. There's no revolution in them. And so 10 years pass.
Yeah, I think I thought of it as something's missing. And so he replaced all of it with a sense of humor. And let's take that all the way. This can be funny. This can be hilarious. You know, we can get some joy and humor out of this. It's almost a mockery, but he takes it so seriously. It's the most serious joke ever.
But he only really enjoys it when people are angry about having to wear the stuff. He said, what's the line? He never really enjoyed, he said, the full richness of the medieval garments unless the people compelled to wear them were very angry and businesslike. Well, somebody shows up who is both, and we meet a new character. This is Mr. Buck. Mr. Buck is the provost of North Kensington, and he's got an issue. And here we have politics and money enter the scene. There had been a road planned for the past 10 years. All sorts of money had gone out to this, properties had been purchased, but the new provost of Notting Hill is blocking it. Pump Street, which I think is this dingy little nothing street in Notting Hill, they won't sell. He won't get rid of it. The provost of Notting Hill apparently loves this, and all these men are bound to lose a lot of money because this speculation won't go through. And this was annoying enough that Mr. Buck was willing to walk in full regalia with the halberdiers to address the king. But he's not alone. Other people start joining too. Barker of
other
South
provosts,
Kensington.
all these leaders of other boroughs who are pushing for this highway to go through because it's crossing through the city. And I will say, if Pump Street and Notting Hill still exists and it's a great place, I'm so sorry. It's for the book.
Yeah. Well, I want to see it now. I assume it's a real place, and I am stoked to see it if I ever make it to London, which I dream of doing someday.
But yes, this provost of Notting Hill, it says he's new. The last one had died, and these things are chosen from a list. And this new young guy named Adam Wayne is now the provost. He says he's not even the provost of Notting Hill. He's only provost of Pump Street. And the king's like, good idea. Why not leave him alone? They will not. This is a big project, and they have bribed and blackmailed and paid to make it happen. And this one street is this key to the whole project, and the guy will not sell.
The king does summon the provost of West Kensington to be involved in this debate because he wants more color in the room. He liked the colors of the first two, but he needs another color. So the provost of West Kensington and his entourage get summoned, and the king is just rolling, loving this, until the Lord High Provost of Notting Hill desires an audience. And this moves us into the next chapter, delightfully titled, Enter a Lunatic.
Can I read this first paragraph? Because it's awesome.
Please do.
The king of the fairies, who was, it is to be presumed, the godfather of King Oberon, must have been very favorable on this particular day to his fantastic godchild, for with the entrance of the guard of the provost of Notting Hill, there was a certain more or less inexplicable addition to his delight. This makes the king so happy. This is what he liked, that all the colors are there. All the tension is there. He gets to play the role of the grand king. This is perfect.
And he thinks everybody else he's making fun of in the joke because they hate it. But it says, these in their red tunics belted with gold had the air rather of an absurd gravity. They seemed, so to speak, to be taking part in the joke. They marched and wheeled into position with an almost startling dignity and discipline. And the king loves this. Finally, there's somebody who gets the joke with me and is taking this seriously, and we can mock all these other people. And what follows then is this grand eloquence between the king and his beloved provost.
He says, "Welcome, my lord. What news from the hill of 100 legends? What have you for the ear of your king? I know that troubles have arisen between these provosts, and these others are cousins, but these troubles it shall be our pride to compose. And I doubt not and cannot doubt that your love for me is not less tender, no less ardent than theirs." All these guys hate him.
So much. Mr. Buck made a bitter face, and James Barker's nostrils curled. That one hit home. But the response from Adam Wayne, "I bring homage to my king. I bring him the only thing I have, my sword." And with a great gesture, he flung it down on the ground and knelt on one knee behind it. There was dead silence. "I beg your pardon," said the king blankly. This is a joke to him. And now this guy steps in and is offering his sword like he's serious. But then he keeps talking.
Yeah, he says, "I stand here for the rights the charter gave me, and I swear by your sacred crown that where I stand fast."
The eyes of all 5 men stood out of their heads.
They can't believe it. Cannot believe that this kid, I mean, he's young in this, right? Like around 20 or so. Describes his bright red hair and these blazing blue eyes. Chesterton loved color. He used color all the time. But he seems earnest. And the king is delighted. He says, "Yes, the whole world is mad, but Adam Wayne and me. You all are crazy." This guy gets it. He gets the joke.
The other guys start trying to work with him. They say, "Look, all the good people, the important people, the people of worth in Notting Hill, they want this road to happen. It's only worthless people that are standing in the way." And Adam Wayne objects to that strongly. He says, "No, the only people who want this are the ones who have been bought. So it's the dishonorable who want this to happen. He who loves this street, who loves Notting Hill, will not let this occur."
He tells them, "I fight for your royal vision, for the great dream you dreamt of the League of the Free Cities. He's talking to the king, "you have given me this liberty. If I had been a beggar and you had flung me a coin, if I had been a peasant in a dance and you had flung me a favor, do you think I would have let it be taken by any ruffians on the road?" This guy is willing to stand and defend the liberty of Notting Hill. He's going to protect his area, his region, his home.
And this starts to go too far, even for the king. It's a great joke. It's fantastic. But he pulls Adam Wayne aside and says, "Hey, between you and me, we're both in on the joke. Tone it down, buddy." Adam Wayne is not going to tone it down. And this is where we learn that this was the boy. This was the boy that had stabbed the king with his wooden sword. And when the king told him, "This is for the war chest of Notting Hill," Adam Wayne believed that Notting Hill should have a war chest, that he was a defender of that street and of this suburb. And so this is a lunatic of the king's own making. And the king can't believe it. King Auberon dropped the hand and stood without stirring, thunderstruck. "My God in heaven," he said, "is it possible that there is within the 4 seas of Britain a man who takes Notting Hill seriously?" "And my God in heaven," said Wayne passionately, "is it possible that there is within the 4 seas of Britain a man who does not take it seriously?"
He tells the king, "It was your majesty who first stirred my dim patriotism into flame. 10 years ago when I was a boy, I was playing on the slope of Pump Street with a wooden sword and a paper helmet, dreaming of great wars." When he stabbed the king and gave him this great idea, this boy and that coin, he took it to heart. This runs deep in him. He wants to protect. He wants to love it. And somebody asked me what this book was about, and I said, the shortest way to say it is local patriotism to the utmost.
Mm-hmm.
This boy sees them trying to take away, to destroy his home and his suburb, his borough, and he will not have it, to the point of fighting, to the point of blood, to the point that he doesn't start a fight, but he is willing to defend. Like we said earlier, revolution had been dead. Well, here's one.
Yeah. Here is one willing to fight, kill, and die for this street. And I really think it's important how this chapter ends, because the king and Wayne are talking, and he says, this is the king. What the devil is all this? What am I saying? What are you saying? Have you hypnotized me? Curse your uncanny blue eyes. Let me go. Give me back my sense of humor. Give it me back, I say. I solemnly assure you, said Wayne uneasily, with a gesture as if feeling all over himself, that I haven't got it. The king fell back in his chair and went into a roar of Rabelaisian laughter. I don't think you have, he cried. This speaks a lot, I think, to the characters of these two men. We have the king, who has only humor. He's got no gravity, no seriousness, no ideals. And then we have the fanatic, the idealist, the lunatic, who has ideals, who has purpose, who has strength, but he has no humor.
In this conversation, the boy says, I have thought of a remedy, but such thoughts are rather terrible. And the king asks him, what thoughts? And Adam Wayne says, I know of a magic wand, but it is a wand that only one or two may rightly use, and only seldom. It is a fairy wand of great fear, stronger than those who use it, often frightful, often wicked to use. But whatever is touched with it is never again wholly common. Whatever is touched with it takes a magic from outside the world. If I touch with this fairy wand the railways and the roads of Notting Hill, men will love them and be afraid of them forever. And the king's like, what are you talking about? He means his sword.
Mm-hmm.
He's willing to stand, and he's willing to die to protect Notting Hill.
Yeah. And so ends book 2. We said there are 5 books. So the first one ends with the appointment of this ridiculous king. The second book, we have the development of the ridiculous king's ridiculous plan, and we have the entrance of Adam Wayne, the fanatic, the idealist. And then we do another kind of aside to begin book 3, where this takes a turn to describe the mental condition of Adam Wayne. And this starts with a discussion of a book of poetry. A book of poetry had been published some years before that the king, who the king loves doing all sorts of different things, had actually commented upon. He had done a review of this book of poetry and wrote at length on it. It wasn't a very good book of poetry, and it failed utterly. This was not a thing that was going to succeed. But this book of poetry was written by Adam Wayne, and it gives an insight onto this idealist without humor is also a poet. And that helps drive the way he sees the world, the way he sees history, the way he sees his role in it.
It tells us that it was written by a man who had seen nothing else but London. He's always lived in London, always lived in Notting Hill, always been on Pump Street. This place is in his soul, in his blood, and his bones. And it says that this kid, Adam Wayne, that he saw the street lamps as things quite as eternal as the stars. He saw all this because he, Adam Wayne, was a poet, though in practice a bad poet. It is too often forgotten that just as a bad man is nevertheless a man, so a bad poet is nevertheless a poet. So he's not good at it, but he can look at a street lamp and see the stars. At one point, he's looking with a friend at a fence line and talking about the spears.
Now, we've come across this before in Chesterton. This is one of his favorite things. In Man Alive, the fence line becomes spears, too.
It says, he was perhaps the first to realize how often the boundary of fairyland runs through a crowded city. He can look around and see wonder, and he loves it dearly. It's really convincing, actually, because for this to happen, it's unreal, right? This is the 1980s, and this kid's, I guess it's 94 now. This is in the 1990s.
That's right, the 90s.
1994. There'd be cars and TVs and all these things, but he gets to look at a street lamp and see the stars. This idea of wonder in the everyday. I mean, that's such a part of this book, and that there's something very good about it and meaningful. It takes things that we all just see day to day and makes them wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And that continues here because Adam Wayne is now back home. He is on the street that he loves so much. Says a couple of days after his interview with the king, Adam Wayne was pacing like a caged lion in front of 5 shops that occupied the upper end of the disputed street. They were a grocer's, a chemist's, a barber's, an old curiosity shop, and a toy shop that sold also newspapers. And he's there and he is looking around, and he's not looking at these as shops. He's looking at these as, this is my army. These are my resources to defend this street. And he is thinking deeply. He is moved in his soul. And what follows is this delightful progression where he goes into each of these shops and has interactions with these people. Now, again, he is the idealist, right? He is the fanatic. You don't get the impression that these guys are. And so, but he's trying to drum up that passionate local patriotism and make them understand the duty and the battle that is about to fall on them. And to differing degrees of success, I would say.
To be clear, this guy expects war. He expects them to come in violence and take what they cannot buy from him. They're making a big push and talking to the king, and he expects battle, so he's planning. And yeah, these are his people. This is who he has, and he loves them. They are his people. But yeah, each one, I like that there's customer service. So like, you can count upon my patriotism, sir. And then like, wait, what do you want me to do? Yeah. You want to fight? Hold up.
That's right. He buys things for most of them, though, so that helps.
He ends up having to buy stuff to, keep the peace.
Well, and the spirit behind each of them is really, really fun. Mm-hmm. Because, for example, the grocer, he talks about how this grocer has contacts all over the world. He's selling products that come from India and Arabia and across the ocean and these distant spaces. What a magical place that is. And, does that ever overwhelm you that you are so tied into this? And the grocer's just selling stuff. I mean, he is not overwhelmed with the majesty and grandeur of his goods, but maybe he should be. And that's the first encounter. And it gives that sense of just wonder that Adam Wayne brings to these different locations. And then the next one, the chemist, this is wonderful because we don't really think about the chemists. We don't have that here in America, not now. The chemist is basically a pharmacist. And so they're the ones with all the pills and the potions. So this is an alchemist, Adam Wayne. This is a magician. This is a sorcerer of deep learning and wisdom. Whereas the guy's just trying to sell him, heartburn medicine. I mean, it's a wonderful contrast.
He calls it the elfish mystery of your profession. I mean, you're a doctor. Somebody can come say that to you. Huh.
Oh, I'd be excited. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Now we know. Well, he ends because he's trying to decide in which order he should approach these people. He's actually praying through it, like, God, give me wisdom. Mm-hmm. But he ends with the remarkable Mr. Turnbull, the toy shop, the toy seller. And this struck a chord in my mind because we did the ball and the cross. That's the same name.
Yes, it is.
He is not an anarchist in this one, but Mr. Turnbull.
He's a toy store proprietor.
Evidently, Chesterton enjoyed the name Turnbull. But here, this is the last of these 5 shops that the provost walks into, Mr. Adam Wayne. And he's a little disheartened.
Yeah, the last 2 didn't go well. The barber and the curiosity shop, they didn't want to have much to do with it.
But he's making conversation with the toy shop owner, Mr. Turnbull, and the toy shop owner says things are terribly quiet, and Wayne is encouraged. He says, a great saying, worthy of a man whose merchandise is human history. Terribly quiet. That is, in 2 words, the spirit of this age as I have felt it from my cradle. They go on for a while. And it turns out Turnbull sells toys because he likes to wage war, practice war with the tin soldiers.
He knows every fact about every battle that has occurred. He knows tactics and strategy and logistics, and he lives for this idea. In that case, he said, I may approach you with an unusual degree of confidence, touching the matter of the defense of Notting Hill. And he's interrupted. Turnbull interrupts him. Defense of Notting Hill? Yes, sir. This way, sir. And he takes him where he has his toys set up with a mock replica of Notting Hill set for defense. He has this planned. He's been thinking about nothing else for the longest time. Adam Wayne has found his general in the toy shop. It is so great.
I did not expect that either. But I love how they describe this because, again, they're not starting a fight. They're not planning to start a fight. They are expecting a fight to come to them. And they call it war for beauty, war for society, war for peace. And here they plan.
Yeah. Mr. Turnbull looked at the other for a moment and then hesitated, then sat down beside the bricks and the stranger. He did not rise again for 7 hours when the dawn broke. They are hardcore planning.
This is funny to me. It says, you seem to be interested in military matters. And the toy shopkeeper says simply, I am interested in nothing else. Oh, man.
He found his guy. Found his guy.
Everybody's got a hobby.
I love at the end of the planning, they have a little bit of an argument because they're talking about finances at this point. And he got £5 from something or other. And Adam Wayne asks him, what did you do with it? And he says, well, I gave it away. I gave it to all these boys so that they could take cab rides around the city. And Adam Wayne is kind of appalled by this because their total war spending amount is £20. And so the fact that he spent £5 to just let the children do this, but you get a glimpse into the mind of Turnbull here. Turnbull says, no, you don't understand. I told them to go and hire cabs, take rides, and then bring them back to Notting Hill, at which point I plan to impound the cabs and we will have horses for our cavalry. He is planning and ready to go. And Wayne is so excited by everything that's happening here.
No less than 40 little boys, 40 different cabs are coming. They're going to commandeer, the horses and the drivers, if they're willing to come fight.
Yeah, he's looking for men.
Oh, it's here where it says the provost laughed. He only laughed once or twice in his life, and then he did it in a queer way, as if it were an art he had not mastered. He finds that funny. He says he enjoyed it seriously as a crusade. That is, he enjoyed it far more than any joke can be enjoyed. Turnbull doesn't think it's particularly funny. I think they're taking this so seriously. They're not looking just at defense. They're also looking at supply. They're thinking this through. They got strategy, and they're thinking ahead.
Meanwhile, the other provosts are not sitting idle. They're losing money, and that is not okay. They are dedicated to making this construction project go through, and they need this street for it. And they decide, what are we doing? We outnumber these guys immensely. Why don't we just crush them? Why don't we just take it? And they go to the king. All these provosts go to the king and try and explain to him that this is what we're going to do. The king does not like it. The king does not want this to happen. He does not want to see the end of the joke, and he does not want to see the end of Adam Wayne. But there's a long back and forth, and ultimately, this money is the one thing that will get these guys to revolt. Because the king asked them, what will you do if I say no, if I don't let you do this? Barker answered in a very low voice, revolution. Remember, revolution is gone. It's dead right now. But money, greed, that will still make these men revolt and fight. So not idealism, not love of place, money. And the king's response here, I think, is so interesting. Gentlemen, he said, you have overruled me. Therefore, I can speak plainly. I think Adam Wayne, who is mad as a hatter, worth more than 1,000,000 of you. But you have the force, and I must admit the common sense, and he is lost. Take your 800 halberdiers and smash him. It would be more sportsmanlike to take 200. They have been given permission to move ahead, and they do. This next scene is really where, in some ways, the excitement starts in the story, because we now have a battle brewing. And so Mr. Buck and some of the other provosts gather their men, and they don't expect there to be more than a couple dozen of Adam Wayne's men ready to defend them. And so they think their couple hundred are going to just roll through this. It's just math. And they approach, and the king actually carries along with them. He tries to talk them out of it. He tries to talk them into having fewer men. But when it becomes clear that they're going to go ahead, the king demands a snack, a table in the rear where he will eat while the fighting happens.
I do like that he stands up a bit because earlier Adam Wayne had actually defended the king's honor somewhat. These provosts were being insulting, saying the king's going to do this, the king's going to do that. And Adam Wayne had said, you're going to tell the king what to do? He does love his king. So at least here, it made me like the king more, where it's painful. He's not going to stand up. He doesn't have the love. This is all a big joke to him. But he does say, what's a road or so? For me, it's the one joke that may save me from pessimism. Take fewer men and give me an hour's fun. It's still a joke to him, but at least he says something.
Yeah, I think so too.
But yes, he's lunching as this battle commences.
It takes like a half hour to get it set up. I mean, it's a whole thing. But meanwhile, the battle does commence. And all of a sudden, the king notices he hears noise and people are running back towards him. And then he sees Barker. Barker is running back towards them. Barker, he said, what is all this? Beaten, said the politician, beaten all to hell. And he plunged past the nostrils, shaking like a horse's, and more men plunged after him. Notting Hill has withstood the first assault.
And then we see Adam Wayne, the conqueror, with his face flung back and his mane like a lion's. He stood with his great sword point upwards, the red raiment of his office flapping round him like the red wings of an archangel. This is striking to the king. This was so unexpected. There's no way this is possible. But they planned. They were ready. And they cared. They have not just a goal ahead of them, they have commitment. The idea that it's beyond the scale of the place is so beautiful, actually, where they will not be overrun. They will not just roll over.
And what we have here, too, is a little bit of the fog of war. Because all we know is that Barker took his men into the street and then he came back beaten. We don't know how. We don't know the details. We don't know what's going on. We just know this was a decisive victory for Adam Wayne and the men of Notting Hill. And in the next chapter, we get Barker meets up with Mr. Buck. Mr. Buck, the other provost, was not in this battle. They didn't think they needed that many men, and they certainly didn't need him. And so Barker and Buck sit down over food and drink, and they have a discussion about how this all happened. Barker explains what they experience as they're walking through the streets, and they seem to be kind of guided, but not in ways they could clearly assess or tell what was happening, when all of a sudden they were just overwhelmed.
Weren't they baited?
They were. And Buck, who wasn't there, but has a little bit of a detachment and can view this from the outside, said, oh, you were on Portobello Road, right? And he's like, yes, we were. And Buck says, you idiot. That's the only street where there's two side streets where you could be ambushed from both sides. He led you there. It's obvious. And Buck is viewing this. Buck is a businessman, and he's viewing this with a very calculated mentality where he says, you were foolish. You should have used your vast amount of men, blocked off the, 9 streets or 5 streets or however many more that we could identify, and crushed them in that way. So Buck has a plan. Barker, who has been despairing, gets excited, says, oh, yes, it's all so clear. It's all so obvious. Let's go do it. And Buck is ready to do it. Some people complain because it's getting dark, but Buck, he's ready to go. He says, don't worry about it. We got the lamps. Just follow the street lights. We'll be good. Our numbers, we can't lose.
This chapter is called The Battle of the Lamps. And so if you get Buck and Barker mistook, it's okay. I did too.
Yeah, I did too.
B names. But one of them is a lot more pragmatic. And if you think about military strategy, he's going to take a step back and he's thinking about the actual geography of the city. He's familiar with the city himself, and they're going to plug every outlet. If there's no way out, there's no way the men of Notting Hill could get around them. They're just going to overwhelm with force. Okay, so before they were led into this trap, that was dumb. They should have gone bigger earlier, clearly. But here, all these provosts gather their men. Interesting that Notting Hill is defending its place in London, its boundaries. I'll go with boundary lines. Well, here suddenly the men of North Kensington and South Kensington and Bayswater, suddenly they're wearing their colors with a little bit more pride.
Mhm.
They're a group. They're grouping. It's becoming real. This massive joke from the king is becoming this thing where now they have a team, a side to take, a side to fight for.
And some of them kind of find that they actually like fighting. Barker, as he's talking to Buck, explains that where he says something happened. And Buck is like, yeah, of course something happened. He's like, no, something happened. Nothing happens to you sitting at your desk. But I had a guy take a swing at my head and I fought back and I downed two of them. And there's this pride that comes with this hand-to-hand combat. Again, the plan is still to just totally waylaced to Adam Wayne and his forces. But yeah, there's that spark. All these people that had no sense of revolution, well, they're at least getting a taste for fighting.
I like this line. These men planning, they say, tomorrow we shall all be civilians again. The battle's going to be over. The chess game will be done. Tomorrow we'll be back to civilians. But today they're going to fight. But it's dark, like you said, but they all know their role. Okay, they each have a road to plug on the way up to Notting Hill.
And it seems to be working fantastic. And in fact, one of the other provosts who we haven't mentioned yet, Wilson turns out to be pretty good at this. He is leading his men with fire and passion, and they actually are able to work their way through and fight their way to Pump Street. They are actually able to make their way the whole way there. Barker and Buck are wondering when they're going to finally meet up with the main forces of Adam Wayne, but everything is going smoothly. And then it says,
a thing had descended upon them which London does not know. Darkness, which was before the stars were made, and they were as much lost in it as if they had been made before the stars. It's full dark. The lamps go out.
All the lamps, all at once. And now they are being attacked from all sides. And now they can't tell who's friend or foe. And so these greater numbers are now fighting each other too without knowing it. So there's casualties going on. They're fighting each other and they have to retreat, which they do in actually pretty orderly fashion. But finally, once they reach a point where they can get a sense of, okay, who are we and where are we? They're again back to where they started. And the men of Notting Hill have defended themselves once again by going into the gasworks and shutting off the lamps and then fighting in darkness on their home territory.
Man, it's just described so well. It says in those horrible eyeless encounters, it's just dark. They cannot see. But at the end of it, Adam Wayne and his men, they're barricaded back in Pump Street. And all those men that were going with the overwhelming force have been beaten back again.
I enjoy after this, though. It says, a genuine reputation can sometimes be made in an hour. There's several that get made. So, I mean, Buck gets this reputation for being a really great man of action and a planner. And then Wilson, that provost that made it to Pump Street, he is wearing the clothes of his guard and enjoying his role as a commander of men in battle. And they do begin to think and talk, is this worth it? Right? Is this something we want to keep doing? But Buck is not going to back down. Barker is not going to back down. Wilson is now enjoying fighting. And again, these are men of business. They have money. Notting Hill is one of these suburbs. There are so many others, and they can simply pay people to get more men. They decide doing this in the night is foolish. That was a mistake. We shouldn't have done it. We are going to do this now in the daylight. But first, they look around to get some more information. Remember those hansom cabs that they got the horses from? Well, Turnbull has taken the wood from those cabs and has barricaded now every entrance into Notting Hill. I mean, the give and take on this, the back and forth of this siege is really, I think, described in a fun way.
It is. And all this time, the king, he's just delighted. What fun. And he becomes a special war correspondent. It goes into some detail about how journalism has gotten sleepy, like everything else. But here, there's this revival, and he takes these different tones for different headlines.
No, and they're so much fun to read. And his personality is just, it's great because apparently this one particular journal that's still active, he would just go irritate them all the time. He liked hanging out no matter how busy they were and talking to them. But now he takes on this mantle. Don't call me the king anymore. I am the special war correspondent. And he really goes up to the front lines and goes up to where this battle is happening because he's so excited that the men of Notting Hill now twice have fought off really vastly superior forces. And he's really excited to see, okay, what happens next.
He walks right up to the barricade and he actually meets a man who's a chemist. We've met this chemist before when Adam Wayne had gone looking for men and the chemist had brushed him off. You know, what war? What do you want me to do? Here, he is a proud captain of O Company in the army of Notting Hill. And the king, yes, he describes himself only as a war correspondent, and he's allowed in to write the story.
What's great now is the way this next battle gets told. This next encounter is all through the writings of the king. These are the war correspondents' messages back to the journal. And it's a fun trick. It's a fun way of being able to describe what happens. Buck pays for a gigantic army. And here we now have the great army of South Kensington that is going to take on and finally destroy completely Wayne and his forces.
Well, the king at first is annoyed in his articles that Wayne would be so inartistic as to just wear out a siege, right? They're barricaded inside. That's not exciting at all. How boring of him. But this massive army is on its way. It is included that it is believed in military circles that he is growing a mustache. Actually, that might not be about Wayne. I just think it's funny. It's included in the war correspondence. Right. But then the article pauses and it says, later. I write with some difficulty because the blood will run down my face and make patterns on the paper. And he goes on at some length about blood being a very beautiful thing. If you ask why blood runs down my face, I can only reply that I was kicked by a horse. There's horses. They did not count on cavalry.
They did not. But Turnbull's been planning this for a long time. And he's got them. And the description of this battle is really, really good because, again, Wayne's forces are so hopelessly outnumbered. And the great army of South Kensington is coming after him. But these kind of frumpy government officials have now really taken on this role as battle leaders. We haven't mentioned Lambert for a while. Lambert was one of the two dragons back at the beginning, one of these two dull, pompous government forces. He is now fighting like a maniac in the front line and is talking smack back and forth to Adam Wayne. Adam Wayne has the standard of Notting Hill, which he carries with him. And Lambert jumps up on the wall against him. And Adam Wayne kind of tips the banner to use it as a spear. And Lambert makes cutting comments about how the standard is drooping. And Adam Wayne says, yeah, only for a great enemy. And then he kills him with it. He stabs him with this standard, but acknowledges him as this great hero. And there's all these one-on-one encounters and these fights and battles that are happening. But at the same time, Adam Wayne's men keep getting driven higher and higher and in and up. And ultimately, they're surrounded. And Buck and Barker and the king and everybody expects that they're going to come plead for peace. They're going to sue for terms of surrender. And as they're standing there waiting, to no one's surprise, a messenger does come to them from Adam Wayne. I will read to you the words of this herald. The herald again inclined himself submissively and answered in a kind of monotone. My message is this. Adam Wayne, Lord High Provost of Notting Hill, under the charter of King Oberon and the laws of God and all mankind, free and of a free city, greets James Barker, Lord High Provost of South Kensington, by the same rights free and honorable, leader of the Army of the South, With all friendly reverence and with all constitutional consideration, he desires James Barker to lay down his arms and the whole army under his command to lay down their arms also. Wayne, in this impossible situation, surrounded, is not offering surrender. He's demanding it from this army that is facing him.
And he puts forth terms. He says, I will leave you your free laws and your free cities, your flags and your governments. He will not destroy the religion of South Kensington or crush the old customs of Bayswater. I mean, it's funny, except real blood has been flowing here. Mm-hmm. And they expected surrender, and he's demanding it from them.
It says an irrepressible explosion of laughter went up from the forefront of the great army. And they think this may be something the king is doing as a joke, but they are not convinced. But then the herald keeps talking. In the event of your surrendering your arms and dispersing under the superintendence of our forces, these local rights of yours shall be carefully observed. In the event of your not doing so, the Lord High Provost of Notting Hill desires to announce that he has just captured the Waterworks Tower just above you on Camden Hill, and that within 10 minutes from now, that is, on the reception through me of your refusal, he will open the great reservoir and flood the whole valley where you stand in 30 feet of water. God save King Oberon. Checkmate.
They say, we must surrender. We could do nothing against 50,000 tons of water coming down a steep hill 10 minutes hence. And then they go drink.
What else can you do?
I was floored. I'm still floored. I had to put the book down. It worked. He did it. Amazing.
Turnbull has been planning this for a long time.
Oh, man. Throughout this battle, though, when like somebody from Bayswater would like start up a cheer, Wayne would get excited. Like, yes, it's working. They're teaching others local patriotism. That's what he wants. He wants his own, and he wants that passion, that love for others as well, to feel it. And here he wins against this absurd, outnumbered force. I mean, unreal.
It's great. Well, that'd be a real good place for the book to end, wouldn't it?
I thought so. But it doesn't.
Book 4 ends, but now we enter into book 5. And we've been fairly facile with time. So another 20 years passes, and we see our good friend the king once again going for a walk on Notting Hill 20 years after the Battle of the Lamps and the Battle of the Water Tower.
On the evening of the 3rd of October, 20 years after the great victory of Notting Hill, which gave it the dominion of London, King Oberon came, as of old, out of Kensington Palace. I mean, we are talking medieval here.
Totally.
As of old.
Yeah, this joke that he set in motion has gone places that he had no idea. And as he's walking around, we get a description of the things he sees. I love this. I'll just read this paragraph. It was about sunset, and the lamps were being lit. Oberon paused to look at them, for they were Shiffy's finest work, and his artistic eye never failed to feast on them. In memory of the great Battle of the Lamps, each great iron lamp was surmounted by a veiled figure, sword in hand, holding over the flame an iron hood or extinguisher, as if ready to let it fall if the armies of the South and West should again show their flags in the city. Thus, no child of Notting Hill could play about the streets without the very lamppost reminding him of the salvation of his country in the dreadful year.
And he thinks back to when Wayne called his sword a magic wand. And he says he was right in a way. The sword does make things beautiful. It has made the whole world romantic by now. And I love the motto that they use. Instead of Notting Hill, there's the motto of nothing ill. They've changed the name, nothing ill. The love of this battle and passion and history has romanticized the whole city, the whole culture.
And the picture he paints of that is beautiful because the king is now on Pump Street. And those same shops that Adam Wayne walked into as a weirdo, The king is now walking in, and he goes into the grocer's shop, and it describes how the whole feel of the establishment is changed. The grocer is now wearing these gorgeous robes, and he has this unspeakable love for all these exotic things he's selling. He has them displayed in a beautiful way that he never had before. Really, the entire just tone has been elevated of this shop. All that stuff that Adam Wayne said earlier that just sounded ridiculous has now become a part of him. And now that's what he displays in the shop. And we see the same thing in the chemist shop, who is looking like a sorcerer. I mean, he is looking like a magician and a master of, what was it, the elfish craft. And it's an incredible thing to see that 20 years after this battle, so much has changed in terms of the very outlook of the people, how they act, how they dress, how they move, and how they think and how they feel. And this really comes home to us when the king walks into the chemist shop and he sees his old friend, Barker. But Barker is not the same as he used to be.
He asks respectfully, actually, to speak with the king. And he tells the king, I don't think it will be so long till the next war. And Oberon is surprised by this. Like, what do you mean? And Barker's got some passion now, some fury, actually. Says, we will stand this insolence no longer. We are not slaves because Adam Wayne 20 years ago cheated us with a water pipe. Notting Hill is Notting Hill. It is not the world. So South Kensington, that's his area, his boundaries. He wants to push back. Apparently there's statues going up that he takes very personally. Like Notting Hill is overstepping its bounds.
Yeah, I love the thing that gets him worked up. It's right here. It says, it is rumored that Notting Hill has vetoed the statue of General Wilson. They are putting up opposite Chepstow Place. If that is so, it is a black and white shameless breach of the terms on which we surrendered to Turnbull after the Battle of the Tower. We were to keep our own customs and self-government. So this is what's getting him worked up. Remember, before it was money. The reason he was willing to go to war the first time was over money. Now he's willing to go to war over a principle. And as he's standing there describing this to the king, another one of our old characters pops in, Mr. Buck.
And he's upset too. He says, I'd like to have a go at smashing all this, though I'm over 60. But then the lights go out and he freaks out. He still remembers the Battle of the Lamps. He's like, darkness. No, not darkness. He's afraid of the dark. He had a bad experience.
But the shopkeeper soothes them and says, no, don't you understand? This is the reminiscence of that. This is a celebration. And soon you'll hear the song from outside as the men of Notting Hill sing in memory of their triumph. Barker and Buck are done. They run out with swords drawn and with daggers in their hands, and they start just laying about everywhere around them. These are very different actions than we would have seen 20 years prior.
And suddenly this great voice speaks out, and it says, turn up the lights from somewhere above them. In the name of Notting Hill and of the great council of the city, turn up the lights. And Adam Wayne steps forward. It says he has gray in his hair now. It's been 20 years.
Yeah.
It's funny that the king is there, but he doesn't have the presence and authority, though he's still the king. He's that symbol of the king. It's Adam Wayne who fought the battle. He's the one that makes them stop.
Mm-hmm. And he does make them stop. He insists that the lights get turned back on. And he frees Buck and Barker, and he speaks passionately to his people. He tries to explain to them that you guys are missing the point. We have given these people love of their cities. We have given them love of their homes. You can't take that away from them. You're wrong. We have won by what we have done. But nobody is really listening to what he's saying. He's in the mind of these people, he's a demagogue, but they're not listening to what he's saying. And he's trying to explain to them that you shouldn't stop them. If they want to raise a statue to Wilson, let them. And he says at the end, if it is your will because of this matter of General Wilson's statue to make war upon Bayswater, and he's interrupted, it is their will. They want war. And not for any good reason, not for any idealistic purpose, because they have now become imperial. They have become an empire trying to spread themselves over the other boroughs and blotting out everything that makes the individuals wonderful. And Adam is grieved by this.
It says he comes down sadly when he's overrun by these cheers for war. And he goes and speaks to Turnbull, who's there. He says, "Tomorrow, old man, we shall have a new experience, as fresh as the flowers of spring. We shall be defeated." And they reminisce about the battles they have. And like, what's the difference this time? We've been outnumbered before. Well, this time we're wrong.
Yeah.
This time the war is wrong.
The answer is very simple, replied Wayne calmly. It is because we ought to be defeated. But he is still the leader of his people, and he doesn't abandon them, and he is going to be there for the battle. He also points out when the king asks him, are you sure you're going to lose? He says, well, yeah, one, we're wrong. Two, there's like 100 other boroughs that are going to join in on this. If we were outnumbered before, this is so ridiculously beyond any of that we have no chance. And then this is where the king does something really interesting.
King says, "Then give me a halberd somebody. I desire all men to witness that I, Oberon, King of England, do here and now abdicate and implore the provost of Notting Hill to permit me to enlist in his army. Give me a halberd." The moment he signed up was when he was assured that they would lose.
Mm-hmm. He asked repeatedly before that, and he gets told in no uncertain terms that their death is inevitable. They are going to lose. And that's when this king of humor, this jokester, insists on joining the battle. Interesting.
The chapter here is called The Last Battle. And it's a cloudy day, and Wayne went down to die with all his army in Kensington Gardens. While this war, Adam Wayne knows that they should be defeated. This isn't right. But he still goes to fight. And he still leads his men. Mm-hmm. He still keeps to his own ideals. It says he wasn't part, and the king wasn't part of taking down the statue. None of that. But he will lead his army.
And Turnbull is there too. And the description of the fighting is very good. Chesterton does a great job with this. And we see kind of broad strokes of what the different forces are doing, but we also see these individual moments of valor and courage of the individuals. Turnbull dies bravely. He runs into this group of men as they're falling down, and he dies bravely. And then Adam Wayne has, as would be expected, a very impressive end here to this last battle. So he's totally outnumbered, but all these characters who have shown before come to him because they want to take him down. Barker approaches him face to face, and Wayne kills him. Wilson, the guy who loved fighting in the last time and they're trying to make a statue of, comes to face him face to face. Wayne kills Wilson. And eventually we have Wayne completely surrounded, grabbing around a giant tree.
I think this is important. When Barker comes up, he's taunting Wayne. He's already lost. The game is done. The war is done. I shouldn't even say the game. This is over. But Barker says to him, "How large now, my lord, is the empire of Notting Hill?" Wayne smiled in the gathering dark. "Always as large as this," he said, and swept his sword round in a semicircle of silver. It's like the president at the beginning. He is still in love with the idea, the place, the concept of what he'd been fighting for, even though it's only him left. They've already lost. This battle is done. But he keeps his space around him. And yes, he's killing these men, and he's by this tree. And this is such an interesting way to end it. Chesterton always ends it strangely.
Yeah. I got to admit, the thing that kept going through my mind as I was reading this was Samson. Because you have Adam Wayne grabbing this great tree, and they're trying to take him alive now. And so, he's not swinging around with a sword anymore. And so they're trying to take him alive. But he is so strong grabbing around this tree. And people are teasing him. They're mocking him. But people that know him or have heard of him say that, he's going to stay there till his arms break off. Like, you don't know how strong he is. But then what happens is he actually pulls this giant tree out. Says, as he spoke, the turf lifted itself like a living thing. And out of it rose slowly, like crested serpents, the roots of the oak. Then the great head of the tree that seemed a green cloud among gray ones swept the sky suddenly like a broom, and the whole tree heeled over like a ship, smashing everyone in its fall. And this is the end of the last battle.
But there's still another chapter.
Right. That would be a great place for the book to end, wouldn't it?
I know. Yes. But it didn't. Two voices. And so this is very much a voice 1 and voice 2. So ends the empire of Notting Hill. As it began in blood, so it ended in blood. And all things are always the same. And then there's silence and another voice. And it says, it's not the same voice. This is a conversation, a back and forth between two voices. It is of the new things that men tire, of fashions and proposals and improvements and change. It is the old things that startle and intoxicate. It is the old things that are young.
This chapter is a perfect snapshot of so much of Chesterton's philosophy. And one of the reasons I love this book, most of Chesterton is overtly and intentionally religious. This book has a lot that is secular about it. This speaks to the heart of him as a patriot and a local patriot, but this also speaks to the heart of him as an optimist. Much of Chesterton's life was spent arguing with people who believed that life wasn't worth living, that everything was meaningless, that there was no point. And what Chesterton would often come back with is this concept of gratitude. That even if all there is this little bit, even if what you say is all there is, you should still be grateful for it. And I think he words this really well, these two opposing viewpoints in these two opposing voices. Suppose I am God, said the voice, and suppose I made the world in idleness. Suppose the stars that you think eternal are only the idiot fireworks of an everlasting schoolboy. Suppose the sun and the moon to which you sing alternately are only the two eyes of one vast and sneering giant, opened alternately in never-ending wink. Suppose the trees in my eyes are as foolish as enormous toadstools. Suppose Socrates and Charlemagne are to me only beasts, made funnier by walking on their hind legs. Suppose I am God, and having made things, laugh at them. And then we get the response. And suppose I am man, answered the other, and suppose that I give the answer that shatters even the laugh. Suppose I do not laugh back at you, do not blaspheme you, do not curse you, but suppose, standing up straight under the sky with every power of my being, I thank you for the fool's paradise you have made. Suppose I praise you with a literal pain of ecstasy for the jest that has brought me so terrible a joy. If we have taken the child's games and given them the seriousness of a crusade, if we have drenched your grotesque Dutch garden with blood of martyrs, we have turned a nursery into a temple. I ask you, in the name of heaven, who wins? I just think that comparison of those two chapters, profound.
Mm-hmm. There's more in here. They go back and forth, but he asks a question like, does it matter? Does anything matter? It's so small. Notting Hill was small. Does it matter if an apple tree grew 6 apples instead of 7 at some point in time? Does anything matter? And he says, yes, something is eternally lost. And I cannot believe anything but that God loved it, as he must surely love anything that is itself an unreplaceable. But even for that, I do not care. Even if it didn't matter to God. It says, if God with all his thunders hated it, hated Notting Hill, hated any small thing that happened, I loved it. He loved it and he fought for it and he stood boldly. So here we learn voice number 2 is Adam Wayne. And voice number 1 in this conversation is the king. And so the king is the one that says, suppose I am God. Suppose it's all this dark joke. Suppose it's all actually darkness. And then Adam Wayne says, but I am man and I loved it.
And now it makes sense why the king volunteered for the army. Because he confesses in repentance here. It's written all in capitals. Wayne, it was all a joke. He is confessing this to Adam Wayne, the fanatic, because he has guilt. He feels terrible about this. And so, of course, he joined a suicide squad. His goal was to die, to try and achieve some sort of penance for what he had done. But it didn't work. God spared him, even in that battle. And now he has to face the man who he set on his path with a joke. And I think he's terrified of how Adam Wayne will respond and what that will do to him. But Adam Wayne's responses are so profound and so good. We've already described some of them. But what he explains now is, again, what I think Chesterton, one of the many things Chesterton is trying to say in this work, and I think he pulls it off. The king is certainly not perfect. He is not an ideal human being. He is pure humor. He is pure joke. But he did have this sense that something was incomplete, something wasn't right with the world. Adam Wayne is not perfect either. He has no humor. He has no jest. He's too serious. He's too idealistic. And what Adam Wayne points out is that what real men are is both. Not great men, real men, common men. You need a sense of humor, but you also need ideals. And between the fanatic and the jokester, you can have revolution again. You can have growth. You can have meaning. You can have value. And so he sees himself and the king as two halves of the same brain that now need to come together in order to be whole.
He says, we are mad because we are not two men, but one man. We are mad because we are two lobes of the same brain, and that brain has been cloven in two. And if you ask for the proof of it, it is not hard to find. It is not merely that you, the humorist, have been in these dark days stripped of the joy of gravity. It is not merely that I, the fanatic, have had to grope without humor. It is that, though we seem to be opposite in everything, we have been opposite like man and woman, aiming at the same moment at the same practical thing. We are the father and the mother of the charter of the cities. Laughter and humor without love is broken. But love and passion and fanaticism for something without that joy, without that humor, it's too much. Mm-hmm. They must go together, this balance of things. And I love this line. It says, laughter and love are everywhere. I think it helps to use different words other than laughter and love. Because if you include joy, if you include passion, if you include love and pursuit of things that are good, it helps make that argument real.
Yeah.
That these things do matter. So for someone to have humor but not actually love something, not love the thing, it loses its joy. It loses its funniness. It's no longer funny. The king doesn't think this is funny anymore at the end. And he ends up confessing. And here's where Adam Wayne almost absolves him and says, no, we need both of us together.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Light Princess. She had no gravity. She could laugh, but no gravity.
Yeah.
And Adam Wayne here provides the gravity to the king. Well, the end of this, again, I love Chesterton's writing. I mean, so much of it is big and bombastic and uses too many words, but I love the words he uses. And this ends well. This is Adam Wayne speaking to Oberon Quinn. Oberon Quinn, we have been too long separated. Let us go out together. You have a halberd, and I a sword. Let us start our wanderings over the world, for we are its two essentials. Come, it is already day. In the blank white light, Oberon hesitated a moment. Then he made the formal salute with his halberd, and they went away together into the unknown world. The end.
Chesterton's books are nutty, but I think really brilliant. And before we wrap up totally, it's called the Napoleon of Notting Hill. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. I read once in Chesterton's writing that he came up with the idea of this book as he was walking through Notting Hill, not surprisingly, but it's the way his mind worked. He was thinking, how would I defend this? How would I take it? And then he ran with that into this story. But I think there also has to do with his opinions on Napoleon, honestly. Napoleon was in many ways a great man. He did things. He was revolutionary in his own right. And I think Chesterton respected that, many of the things he did. Now, again, Chesterton was not fond of empire. And so Napoleon went too far as the Kingdom of Notting Hill went too far. And so I do think there are parallels between the way Chesterton thought of Napoleon and the way Chesterton thought of the characters in this book.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about Napoleon, and I mean, the phrase that came to mind, well, not my phrase, but he out-monarched monarchies.
That's a pretty good phrase.
He really did. He took things too far. And even if it was something that started really well, as you say, like Notting Hill, this passion and protection of their borders was a good thing. But then, yeah, it goes too far to the replacement of other things, pushing into places that are no longer your borders, no longer yours. And so that pushing in, and I think it's interesting, Napoleon wasn't a king. He became emperor. So a king, traditionally, some kind of divine right to rule, right? Some idea that they would love the lands that they are fighting for, maybe. But that wasn't Napoleon. Napoleon was a despot. I mean,
yeah, certainly became it. And I mean, he was actually Corsican, wasn't he?
I believe so.
I don't think he was even actually French.
But even here, the provosts are selected at random, and most of them don't really care, right? They're just trying to push this road through. They just happen to pick one who would have been a good king. He loved his land. He defended his land. So interesting on the title as well.
Yeah.
I think we should end with the idea of this laughter and love, because like everything with Chesterton, I never really get it until the end. And like, I should have read that first, and then you go back to the beginning.
But you couldn't read the end of this one first.
No.
It would not make sense. This one, you've got to walk the path for it to really hit home.
But it surprised me because that's not where I thought it was going. Like I said, I tried to predict the ending. And this idea that the king and the provost, the king and Adam Wayne, somehow complement each other, that was not what I thought in any way. And it's interesting that was the point he was trying to convey. That's how he ends it. But when I think about it, I actually really like it as a platform, as a thought, because one without the other is insane.
Yeah.
It's going to be taken too far. You have to have that balance. You have to have love and laughter together. And just with Chesterton, the enjoyment of color and the small things and how he describes the sky and even the trick with the waterworks, it was just brilliant because they describe in the battle how they keep moving up. It was mentioned in there. Didn't see it coming.
No,
really,
I didn't either.
Really well done. That's what I got.
Well, I love it. And I think maybe the way we should end this episode is by going back to the beginning, because we've talked about that too, how a lot of Chesterton stuff, you read the beginning and then you read the end and then you go back and read the beginning and all of a sudden it makes sense. But this one, we're going to go to the very beginning. We're going to go to the dedication. We talked earlier about G.K. Chesterton's dear friend, Hilaire Belloc. And this book is actually dedicated to him, but in a very Chestertonian manner. It's not just a dedication. He wrote a poem for his poet friend. And so we will end this by reading the poem that begins this wonderful work. For every tiny town or place, God made the stars especially. Babies look up with owlish face and see them tangled in a tree. You saw a moon from Sussex Downs, a Sussex moon untraveled still. I saw a moon that was the town's, the largest lamp on Camden Hill. Yea, heaven is everywhere at home, the big blue cap that always fits. And so it is, be calm, they come to goal at last, my wandering wits. So is it with the heroic thing, this thing shall not end for the world's end. And though the sullen engine swing, be you not much afraid, my friend. This did not end by Nelson's urn, wherein immortal England sits, nor where your tall young men in turn drank death like wine at Austerlitz. And when the pedants bade us mark what cold mechanic happenings must come, our souls set in the dark, belike, but there are likelier things. Likelier across these flats afar, these sulky levels smooth and free, the drum shall crash a waltz of war, and death shall dance with liberty. Likelier the barricade shall blare, slaughter below and smoke above, and death and hate and hell declare that men have found a thing to love. Far from your sunny upland set, I saw the dream, the streets I trod, the lit straight streets shot out and met the starry streets that point to God. This legend of an epic hour, a child I dreamed and dream it still, under the great gray water tower that strikes the stars on Camden Hill. And with that, we'll turn the page, and we hope you join us for the next chapter.